Gamaliel. They took their time, father and mother, walking over to Meadside, arm in arm. We spied on them through the orchard from our favourite spot along the wall where a few missing stones made a comfortable perch. I had brought my Sears Roebuck periscope to get a better view. It was Gamaliel, his knickerbocker pants buttoned just below the knee, who opened the door. Later, our mother would repeat to us his exact words as if they should be an example to us all. "Good day, Mr. and Mrs. Howe. It is nice of you to come. We regret that we are unable to receive visitors at this time. Thank you very much for your trouble." And solemnly accepting the offering of fresh harvest bread and blueberry jam, and unknowingly of a dozen silver coins slipped into the bottom of the basket, he silently closed the door. Our parents did not, I think, turn back to see, but I saw, through my scope, Victoria at a third-story window, curtain pulled back, watching them depart. Against all predictions, they stayed, on through the end of summer and into autumn, taking tours through the hills in their wonderful touring car, the painter smiling and waving to the colourful locals, the lovely Victoria pale, impassive, gazing forward, neither extending nor accepting a greeting of any sort, always with the same fine mask. The boy Gamaliel beside her stock still, as if managing fear. My parents never tried to visit them again, and no one else seemed interested in making the effort. "Some folks, I guess, are just plain unsociable," declared Aunt Meg, while Aunt Mildred was of sterner opinion. "Some folks just have too much to hide." Betimes, the hired girls came out to cook and clean, taking back news to fuel evaluations. News of Stuart Stethington's bizarre, unseemly behaviour, of Victoria's odd, persistent silence, and most alarmingly news of a boy 10 years old without normal associations, who spent hours upon end with his head in his mother's lap, and who probably could not even read. Aunt Mildred and Aunt Meg, in consultation with Aunt Iris and Aunt Faith, thought that Uncle Tim, now constable and unofficial truant officer, might take some sort of legal action. But Uncle Tim, perhaps under the memory of a sweet-faced girl and a bounteous gift of shimmering foil-wrapped chocolate, seemed to lack sufficient aggression. "Just keep in mind," Tim chuckled to his fretting female relations, "what the good book says about minding our own business." But even Uncle Pastor Gideon's wife, the excellent Aunt Iris, hadn't heard that one before. At any rate, in the midst of all the fretting, the boy, one day without warning, showed up at the old red schoolhouse on his own. He stood there hugging a worn leather satchel at the gate. Gamaliel Stethington Mead, in white shirt, blue bow tie, and those silly knickerbocker pants. Burning with an emotion like anger or pity, I tried to move away, feeling the gleam in Cousin Henry's eye. In that moment, Gamaliel alone and helpless at the gate, myself safe in the schoolyard surrounded by a horde of cousins, first, second, third, once, twice, thrice removed, I felt my universe changed, and I was afraid. Rugged in our denim overalls and thick wool trousers, chafing in our Sears Roebuck shirts, we jeered him, opened the gate, drew him in, the better to torment him, scuffing our boots at him, jostling him in the yard. "Oh, look, it's the fancy new Mead. Sure looks dumb enough for a Mead." Silent, he turned from us, clutching his books. "Come on, Gamey," we taunted. "Don't you want to play?" "Be a sport, Gamaliel," we shouted, forming our crack the whip line. "Come on, you like this, you'll see." "Gamey, Namey, what a shamey," shouted Cousin Nate, making a dash for Gamaliel and grabbing him by the arm. The books went flying, but he made no protest as Nate pulled him to the end of the line. Slowly, through the schoolyard, we began to snake, Gamaliel held fast at the tail of the whip. Faster and faster we pulled him around in a figure eight, until at the right moment Nate let go, sending Gamaliel flying across the yard. Safe and innocent, in the middle of the line, I watched him land in the dust, skidding on his knees, ripping his corduroy pants. Ashamed, I watched Gamaliel while the others ran away. He touched his head with a bloody hand, blood too at his elbows and knees. I would have gone to his rescue, I was sure, but already Miss Cowdery had reached him, was helping him rise, coughing, to his feet. All the way to the schoolhouse he limped, blood streaking down his bare legs and into his high-topped shoes. He held his head as he coughed, wheezing from the dust. I watched him disappear with Miss Cowdery into the schoolhouse, the heavy door banging shut. Alone under the old maple tree, holding onto the rope swing for support, I felt my heart go tight. Not only had I betrayed Gamaliel, but also somehow I had let my father down. "It was an accident, Father," I told him, my face burning from the lie. "He isn't used to our rough play." "Yeah," confirmed my brother Andy. "Nobody meant no harm." Father looked away, jaw working, squinting out through the kitchen window in the direction of Meadside Farm. The subject of Gamaliel Stethington Mead's reception at Bell Falls School was officially dropped. I heard them discussing it, though, Father and Mother, late at night. Mother had come in from gathering the windfall apples, carrying a basket full of wildflowers, the very basket she had given to Victoria Mead. "I found it on the wall, William," she told my father, lifting her eyes, which, from the sound of her voice, must have been filled with tears. "I will never understand your family. What is the matter with you, Howes and Meads?" "I wish I could say," my father sighed. My mother hoped Victoria's gesture was an opening, but in fact it was not. Peculiar Hiram Mead's peculiar daughter remained a stranger. As for Gamaliel, his tenure at Bell Falls School was concluded on that single morning, after which he was again free every day for excursions to the pond, where the geese seemed tame at his call, or out into the hills with the painter, who scouted the old Indian trails as if sporting a fondness for manly adventure. Distant witness to Gamaliel's autumn idyll, I let my guilt fade away. Wasn't Gamaliel, after all, the freest, luckiest boy in town? Except that even I, a mere child, could detect something amiss in Stuart Stethington. A restlessness about the eyes, a certain cruelty in the smile. As the days grew shorter, the excursions ceased. Gamaliel merely watched while the artist did nothing but paint the pond, trying, it seemed, to perfectly reproduce the effect of water in every light. The pond at dawn, morning sunlight on the pond in autumn at noonday, sunset over Abnack Pond. "Dull," we heard the painter sigh as we spied on him from beyond the wall. Too deadly dull." What does a painter want at the pond in the dark, I wondered, for we saw him, bareheaded, alone under the waning moon, listening to the nothing of night. At last we became aware that he was gone. The green touring car was still hidden away in the carriage house, but for several days we had seen Gamaliel alone, staring across the pond, downriver, toward the falls. "Maybe he ran out of paint," said Mother in that bland way of hers that always made Father smile. And then, perhaps she will leave now as well. She did not leave, however. She did not leave at all, not even left the house. The two hired girls did the shopping for food, while Victoria drifted about the rooms all day, dressed in a filmy gown, wrapped in a knotted shawl, playing her piano, or reading her books in the parlour with sad, red eyes. How could she possibly stay out there all winter, wondered Aunt Meg, at work among the ruins of the Thanksgiving feast, without a man about the place? "You would call that painter a man?" sniffed Aunt Mildred, delivering table scraps into the slop bucket by the kitchen door. "I have heard she reads those modern paper-coloured novels," deplored Aunt Iris, guarding her heart with her hand. "What use has a woman for all this study, whatever she reads?" declared Aunt Faith, polishing dinner plates. "Indeed," intoned the Reverend Uncle Gideon, "does not the Holy Bible caution moderation? Faith is a simple thing." "She sure is," chuckled Uncle Tim, looking up from his newspaper to give his wife a wink. Aunt Faith was not amused. "The woman is not reliable and the child is not cared for properly." "Well, she did try to send him to school," sighed my father, eyeing my brothers and cousins and me. "And she does read from the Bible," said my mother, also with an eye to us boys. "Surely you've all heard the rumours to that effect?" Wiping her hands on her apron, she handed my father a stack of dishes to carry to the shelf. "How can you fret over someone who reads the Bible? She rocks it too," said my cousin Joe. I wanted to grab him and stifle him good. "What do you mean, Joseph?" asked Aunt Faith, seizing him by the arm. "She rocks it, Ma," he said, wrenching away. "Croons to it like a baby." I think she's just praying is all," said Andy, just as dumb as Joe. "If she wants to pray, she should be in church," declared Aunt Iris, with a meaningful nod toward husband Gideon, who beamed back approval upon her. Seeing as how Joe and Andy had tipped our hand, we boys moved together, edging toward the stairs to the loft. Father, however, intervened, standing over us, spreading his massive arms, like the veritable shadow of God. "Have you boys been spying on Meadside Farm again? Or just listening to the idle gossip of your elders?" We slipped away up the stairs. "She will be gone by Christmas, mark my words," I heard Aunt Iris declare. "For a gentler, easier life somewhere would be our devout and most fervent wish," insisted the Reverend Uncle Gideon at her side. From the rocking chair by the fire came the familiar moan. Grandfather Luther, as if in pain, yet no pain, on his impassive face. My father, moving toward the still form in the chair, turned. "Come, Gideon," he beckoned to his youngest brother. "Our father is tired. Help me put old Luther to bed." Throughout the splendid autumn, Gamaliel was free, while we trudged sweating and itching in winter woolies to and from the stuffy schoolhouse. He loitered at the edge of the freezing pond, watching the geese in perfect formation honking their way to warmer climes, while we slogged in the mud to feed the stock, milk the cows, tend the horses, split logs for the winter fires, bring in the pumpkins, mend the fences, repair the wall. We saw through our frosty breath the form on the other side of the pond, drinking in autumn, idle. "He will be a burden on the community one day," prophesied Aunt Faith, the silver thimble gleaming upon the tip of her upraised finger. "Meanwhile he catches death in the cold," prophesied Aunt Iris. And then, over the serviceable quilt, they would forthwith donate to charity, a pointed discussion of how any decent mother would handle such a situation.